we'll start off with a little bit of an introduction about the topic today, which is best practices in food service technology. I'm going to just step down here so I can be closer to you. Everyone's at the back. So if we think about food service technology, we're really used to having clinical technologies, EHRs, and that kind of thing. It's been many, many years that we've had to incorporate clinical EHRs, and there's a lot of best practices around that. For food service technology, and I heard this yesterday, about 55% of senior living facilities, 55%, sorry, do not have food service technology at their sites. So, I think we still have a long way to go where food service technology comes in. And if I think back, as an operator in the late 90s, when I had menus and recipes on a floppy disk that had to be sent to me by the vendor, and then I had to call and get them downloaded. And, so we've come a long way since the late 90s. If you think about food service technology now, it's online ordering with our distribution centers in real time, digital menu boards for residents, staff, families, online website portals where you can get nutritional information, like the families can access the menus that their family member, their mother, father, brother, sister is accessing that day at their senior living facilities. There's nutrient analysis and cost analysis in real time. So a lot has changed since the inception of what food service technology used to be, which was essentially recipes and menus on a floppy disk. So today we assemble, a panel of very experienced leaders in the industry who have really sought after some good best practices that help them implement food service technology in their various organizations. So I'm going to ask you, the first question is, who you are. I'll start with Jill, who you are and your experience in the industry.
Good morning, everyone. I work in Pennsylvania, and within HCF management, I have worked for the last 25 years doing operations and risk management for them. I oversee 7 buildings of 121 each SNFs in Pennsylvania, but I also, as a corporate dietitian, impact 28 buildings that we have total between Ohio and Pennsylvania. And prior to coming to HCF, I worked and I ran 2 hospital patient services in Erie. And I've watched just the evolution of technology go from back when I was at Hand Hospital. We used to take turns sharing the PC, the portable, which was like the old boom boxes. Do you remember those? We would take turns having that as our computer for a hospital system back in the 90s. So when you take that into perspective and go back a little further to my days in college at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, we used to, even at a hospital such as Children's, we used a Cardex system where you would put I had a whole scroll of different stickers that you would put on the plastic cards that were all of the information related to nutrition and the doctor's orders for each patient. So we've gone from clear back to the plastic Cardex to finally embracing, and having the option of technology. And then with that, going further from floppy disks, diskettes to floppy disks to now cloud-based systems. And now I can tunnel into any of our buildings in our operation, go into their tray ticket program and their resident data, and I can help them brainstorm from remote. I can print tray tickets remote to them. So really a huge growth. That's it for me.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Tess, Sutter. I manage our menu solutions team at US Foods. My entire background has been in healthcare food service technology. I've been at US Foods for 9 years. I've helped implement 2 different back of house food service systems, from starting literally from scratch, no recipes, nothing in there, to what it is today to 2. And then I also have helped a couple iterations of a food and supply spend trending tool to really help our operators identify really what's driving their food and supply spend. So I've been able, and my team, and we support healthcare, both senior living and acute care, on these tools, help thousands of operators get onto a web-based back of house platform, and really seeing that just getting them over onto web-based is the first step, and then a long range and a long path of what's successful to them.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Addess, and I am the Director of Culinary Programs for Axe Retirement Life Communities. Axe is one of the largest not-for-profit owner-operators of CCRCs in the country. We have 26, about to become 27 communities in 9 states. I've been with Axe for 35 years.
She's our senior.
Yes. I started there as a supervisor and have worked my way up to the position of director of culinary programs, where I'm responsible for overseeing all the technological aspects of our culinary programs. And I was just sharing with the team last night, when I started with Axe in 1988, the way our residents ordered food is we'd hand them menus 3 weeks in advance. And they'd write their name on their menu. There was only 2 menu choices, 3 sides. And by the way, they could not pick anything else. So if you didn't like it, oh, so well be it. They would hand it to us. We'd tally it. And the evening of the meal, we'd hand it to the resident. They'd take it to a table, hand it to the server, and that's what you got. Have a nice day. In our healthcare centers, we were on tray line, the old Victor Cornelius,
Yes.
if everyone remembers the old Victor Cornelius systems. And when a resident went into our healthcare, a diet aide would take their preferences, and when it came time for them to eat, they got either choice A, unless it was preference stout, and then they got choice B, all right? And that was it. That was our culinary program 35 years ago. And we all said, even back then, there's got to be a better way. This can't be good. You know, by the way, it was wonderful for us. We loved it. It was easy, it was simple. The only people that suffered back then were our residents. They the ones who suffered. So we decided years ago we would begin to embrace technology. And we started, like most companies do with US Foods, and bringing them online with ordering and things like that, online ordering. And it's just about 4 years ago, my VP came to me and said, John, there's got to be even more we can do. We got to have a POS. We got to have a reservation system. We have to have residents in healthcare be able to order tableside with their own choices. Not us deciding. We have to provide our residents choices. We can't go on doing what we're doing. And he said, by the way, you're responsible for all that now, as of today. So that's what we did. We began exploring POS systems, reservation systems, systems in healthcare, people systems, integration with all our EHR with point-click care, so our residents get their correct menus, so that someone who's on a puree diet isn't given a piece of chicken that they can't eat. All those things we began to integrate. And so 4 years later, we have a POS. We have online reservation system. Our residents use an open table type system to reserve tables in our restaurants. We have self-ordering in our bistros where residents come in and staff and order themselves. We have all those things. And it's been a long journey, and it will continue, but we couldn't do half the things we're able to do in terms of reporting, in terms of everything we need to do without the technology being there. We just couldn't. So, and I think we have much more to go with technology, but I think it's helped our operations and run our operations, and it will continue to help run our operations in the future.
Just make sure this is on. Thanks everyone for that. And as for myself, I was worked for a large chain as the director of nutrition care food service operations, and let's throw in housekeeping and laundry in there for a large chain of AL and skilled nursing facilities. After 25 years doing that, I really embraced the technology piece, and so now I'm at MealSuite, which is a food service technology vendor. So that's who we are today, and we're the ones who will be speaking on the topic. I do want you to take out your phone, and if you put in the code, and actually, you know what? I'll put in a QR code, which might make things. You can do the QR code, or
And use technology, right?
we're going to use technology. You're going to put that number in, or you can use the QR code. We're just going to take a simple poll, just so we can see who you are now that you know who we are. I'll give you a minute to get that in there. Okay, I still see some phones up, so I'll give you another few seconds. So either the number or the QR code. Okay, so in your phones, if you can answer this question, what area of senior living do you represent? And this is in real time, so I'll give you a minute. So looks like assisted living so far is the most, because that'll help us when we're answering some of the questions. We'll be able to know how to direct it a little better based on who we're talking to here. Okay. So assisted living, independent living are the top two industry partners. We have a few other. No skilled nursing, no acute care. Okay, interesting. All right, so the next poll. When you think of food service technology, just put in your phone, what is the first word that comes to your mind? Let's see, there's lots of typing going on. POS, painful, ha.
Oh, painful.
Efficiency, evolving, yes. On demand, yep. Data, can't do anything without data. Convenient, mobile, customer service.
This is fun.
Money.
Budget.
Mm-hmm. Computerized menus, AI. Yeah, lots of talk about AI these last couple of weeks in the media anyway. Speed of service, resident.
That's a good one.
Two. Yep. I think we're winding down here. A burger flipper. Burger flipper. All right. So the words that came up the most are the ones in bold. And interestingly enough, these will all come up during our conversation today. POS efficiency, data, customer service. These are definitely words that come up when we talk about best practices. Okay. This was good. Interesting array of words. So thank you for that. Okay, let's get back to this guy. Oh, I did that without a
I'm
hit.
concerned with painful.
Painful. Well, I mean, if we think about any implementation of anything, right?
Sure.
It's the change management. We always get back to that. So it can be painful if we don't have, whether they say measure twice and cut once, right? So that's the planning. Okay, so let's let's start with John. So you talked about, your experience in the industry, but specifically, can you talk about your experience with food service technology in the last little while?
Well, so, when you talk about food service technology, you have to differentiate between your levels of care, especially if you're at a CCRC. And so your technology that you're going to roll out is going to be a little different in healthcare as it is for assisted living, as it is for IL. to be honest with you, the funny thing is, in my industry, you get your biggest bang for your buck on the ILU side. Uh, with the POS, a majority of our residents are in ILU, and so we put out, we have various restaurants for them, and we literally, on the ILU side, it's all in an iPad. Everything we do is in an iPad now. Our servers walk over to the table with an iPad mini. Everything is integrated with either our EHR or our resident data in Salesforce. All right, everything is integrated via API. So every resident is in. All our meal plans are integrated. I mean, we could not operate now without having this, and so that's become a really important part of this. Not only that, but the reporting. I can literally right now, right here, go into on an app, go into Power BI, which is hooked into Salesforce, and I can see how many residents I served in every single community last night, all 26. Not only can I see it, I can see how many pieces of chicken I served last night in 26 communities, 5,000 independent residents. I can see all that. I can go in and I can see what my cost per meal was. It's all about getting your information. Uh, Without the information, there's not much you can do in terms of trying to control your costs and seeing how you're serving. I can see what my revenue was last month. I can see what my revenue is tomorrow. We put in all our catering revenue. We do all that through this. I can print out menus for my residents in healthcare. I can print them all out and hand them out to them. We can go in, we control all our diets through point-click care and MealSuite People Connect, so that when a resident goes from a regular diet to, gosh, I got to think of the new ITSE diet. I hate the word, minced and moist?
Minced and moist.
Minced and moist, I hate
Just throw it out.
Yeah, but it's instantaneous now. It comes
Seamless.
to us, it's seamless, and so we're able to keep up with all that. In the past, it was all the nurse would have to send us a diet order, we'd have to write it on a card, and hopefully they got it, and then the state would come in and we would go, oh my gosh, we can't even. Now everything is electronic. It helps with our state surveys. It's just been something that's become, to be honest with you, it's part of our lives. It's what we are now. I mean, that's what it is. It's not like, ooh, we're here and our technology's here. It's not. It's part of what we are at this point. And I think that's a change in culture at the community level where your staff is part of that whole technology, where they are as much a part of your success with high school kids coming in and serving residents, cooks finding all their recipes. I could pull up every single recipe in my iPad, all right? I could do all that now. So it's not even that it's like, oh, here's the technology. It's just what we do now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most important part of technology. It isn't, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's what we do. It's not anything else. It's part of who we are. It's part of our process. Morning cook comes in, turns on the screen, hits recipes. It's on there all day for the cooks to see. I mean, it's part of who we are. The servers come in, they turn on the iPads, they turn on the screens to serve our food. It's what we do. So I think that's the biggest and most important thing that's happened over the past 4 or 5 years with us is it's become who we are. It's part of us, all right? To get rid of technology would be trying to cut off a finger. Yeah. We can't do it. And so it's what we are at this point. And I think that's really important for us, that it's just what we do. It's almost as if it's not a big deal for us anymore. It's just part of our process.
Right. And if I think back to the word cloud, the word painful came up. And now to think without it, once you've implemented it, if without it, it would be painful.
That's not to say that it wasn't painful implementing it. I
It's a
mean,
journey.
right, it took us for our POS, to implement 26 communities, it took a year and a half, all right? It did.
That doesn't happen overnight.
It does not happen. It was a year and a half. It takes a commitment, all right? And it really does. And and our staff needs to know that the people working with them are committed as well. So either when something happens, and something always happens, they either call me or they'll go to support@mealsuite.com and they will literally get an answer in 15, 20 minutes. So, it's a partnership as well, but if I didn't say it wasn't painful, I'd be lying. There are growing pains and there will always be growing pains.
Right.
But once you get it down, and once your servers get it down, and once your staff gets it down and your management, you can't live without it. As I said, it's like cutting off a finger. You can't live without it.
Yeah. So Jill, with your organization, how is it different? How's your journey been different?
So we're all aware of staffing challenges, right? I've been covering one of our buildings as the nutrition services supervisor since February 28th. I remember it very clearly. It was the worst survey I've ever experienced. And as a result of this past couple of months of jumping back into that role, without the technology that I rely on every day, it would have been even more of a nightmare. Our staff rely on pulling up production sheets. And it spoon feeds them, to use one of our phrases, everything that they need to do, to segue off of what John was saying. So when there aren't as many hands, or I have a fill-in cook from another one of my buildings, literally coming and not knowing the kitchen, you give them that production sheet and the recipes, and you don't have to do any training. It's right there for them. It tells them what they need to do. So in those types of situations when, unfortunately, our staffing can go into complete crisis mode, having the technology there is almost like having another person there. It's doing those things that you don't have time to do. So I think the production sheets and the recipes, and the recipes already have HACCP in them. So when you think risk management and having that maybe less skilled person running, doing your cooking, having HACCP in there is crucial. And it also comes in handy with Department of Health real fast. So that's one thing that I would like to add. I think when you're in the crisis management mode, the technology is truly one of your best friends in those moments. So I'll share that part.
Yeah, I would say you touched on a critical thing about safeguards that are
Yes.
put into the technology, because you have to sort of plan for the lowest common denominator of what's happening in the
Right.
day in your food service operation.
And when it's already in the recipe, that they have to cook the chicken to 165. I had a situation right at the beginning of this particular incident where we had nursing cooking. And the state definitely took issue with that, but we were able to show them that right in the recipes, it had all of those safeguards in there, and it really kept us out of an immediate jeopardy. So it was very helpful. The little things count.
I would say that probably helped you both with resident satisfaction though too. Right?
Yes, we actually haven't had any issues with resident, now that you mention it. That's been great. They've actually said the food's getting better. I cooked those. I actually did on some of them.
So I'm just going to jump to the next question. We do have several questions, but I like the dialogue. I think it's important to hear.
Yeah.
But why is the technology, food service technology, so important now in seniors care? We haven't 55% still don't have it, but why is it important now? And some of you touched on it regarding the staffing crisis and that kind of thing. And so maybe I'll start with Tess.
Yeah, sure. I think they touched on a lot of things. I think technology is important when you think about all the key challenges we're faced with in senior living and healthcare, the cost management piece of it. Resident satisfaction, as we've spoken to, labor and staffing is a huge one. But also, if you think about the future of senior living and where we're going, the type of residents that are entering, now they're going and, stories of they're entering CCRCs earlier on. They don't want the meat and potatoes. They want to be able to, like, they're still living today, picking a restaurant they want to go to. It's really more hospitality focused than it has been in the past. And it's really important that we keep up with that, because that's important as a consumer to choose, both from the parent side or from the family member side. It's important to, figure out where you want to decide where you're starting your next part of your life with. And I know a lot of people are starting a lot earlier in CCRCs. And I mean, I hear about some of these and I'm like, well, can I go there now? So I think it's really important, because this is the future of where we're going. And, we need to shift our frame set to hospitality. And I know you've spoken to that too before. So.
Yeah, and it's not just about, the staff utilization or, the leadership utilization of the technology. The residents themselves are embracing technology and asking for technology as well. I mean, it's now come to the day and age where they have their own iPads, their own iPhone, or whatever, tablets, or, smartphones or what have you, and they're asking for the technology and know how to use it.
Yeah, and that's true. We actually, every resident who moves in gets an iPad now. And we have embraced a lot of that kind of technology. I could go in, our residents use K4 technology, which is an app where they can go in and they can see the day's events. They can actually, they can go in and they can look at every menu item, what's on the menu in the restaurants that day. Click on a menu item, see the nutritional information, see the actual, not just the recipe, but the ingredients of every menu item.
Wow.
All right. They have the ability to do that. And believe me, if we get something wrong, we hear about it. So if they say, wait a minute, the whatever recipe, I saw onions in mine. I was on K4. I didn't see any onions in the recipe. They see things like that. All right. So that's why we need that technology, because the residents are integrated with us as well at this point. So we need to do recipe adherence, because the residents expect us to do recipe adherence because they can see the recipes. So
Be careful what you give them.
It's all integrated. It is. And we have to be careful on everything we do, because we could make a mistake and the residents know it. And so we need to make sure that that is all happening, because when you say the most important thing is residents are embracing the technology. And that's what's really important. We just opened up a bistro in Delaware where the residents do self-ordering. They don't go to someone. No one orders for them. They walk over to a kiosk and put in their own order now. And the newer residents are embracing that, and they're actually training the older resident. Come here, honey, let me show you how to do this. All right? It's something that's an expectation of our residents moving in. It's an expectation. And if we're not doing that, we're losing sales. And you know what? The bottom line is to maintain full communities. I know that sounds crass and businesslike, but it is. We all have communities and we all have apartments to fill. And residents have choices. They can go to any CCRC and move in. So if we're not embracing the technology that they're expecting from us, to be honest with you, we're losing a sale. So it's not just, it's important because it's good business. It's good business for us to embrace the technology. And that's the bottom line. If we don't have residents moving in and we have empty apartments and we're losing money, we're going out of business.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom line. It's the expectation of people moving into our communities. And Tess is right. As the baby boomers begin to move in, they're going to expect more and more and more of that from us. And we haven't had tons of baby boomers move in just yet, but it's becoming more and more and more. And they're used to that too. They're used to going into a website. They're used to going in. You can go to McDonald's website and look at all their nutritional information. You can go on McDonald's app and order and have it sitting there when you get there. And if you don't think that doesn't help them make a decision on where they're going to live once they get to that age, it certainly does. And if we don't provide that for them, they'll go to the place that does.
Yeah, and once they're there, in terms of this resident satisfaction, that keeps them in the place, in the location, in the bed, in the suite.
Yep.
If we keep their satisfaction, meet their needs with food service technology. So Jill, you're the last to answer this question, but is there anything we didn't fill there?
I think you guys covered it very well, but I would like to ask a question of the audience. Are you all using some sort of meal technology right now? If you could raise your hand. Is everyone using something right now? So some of you are not right now, so I hope this is helpful for you. It's really, to go off of what John and Tess were saying, it's becoming not only the expectation, but even for us, are we going to want things that when we get to that point, are we going to want quick turnaround? Are we going to want the technology to be there, that if we order a breakfast wrap, that it's ready when we want it to be ready, not when the kitchen gets it ready? So it's flipping that all back into the customer's hands and our residents' hands, and also we need to flip somehow into a positive with it all and just embrace it.
Yeah, and
Embrace the technology.
we've already spoken about lots of benefits that you've seen, that you've realized. But what would you say is the main benefit that you've realized so far?
Being able to do more with less time, less staff, less work. We use MealSuite, and it's the program. It's easy to train people on. It doesn't. I have a brand new food service director in that building I was talking about. Today's day 2, and he's doing his first order on his own. It's that simple to get in and do these things. Looking at it all, so I think that's
The main benefit.
the main benefit.
Tess, what would you say from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Definitely easy. I think about it too, a lot of people when they think or they're not implemented at all with food service technology yet, they just think menus. And menus are so important in senior living, of course. So that's just part of it. Menus are the core, but then there's so much to it. So when you think about a food service software, it truly is end to end. And one of the big things too, when you think about it, and we as US Foods, a distributor, integrate with these menu technologies, it's you're not going to this system to do the ordering and hand filling it in. You're not doing this system to do the menus. You're not doing this system. It's all one system connected. So it's seamless. It's time savings. It's giving you the answers, like how much product you need to purchase for your resident count that day versus going through your storeroom and one by one and saying, do I need this today? Do I need that? It's making operators, when they have so many things going on in their head, be able to be like, oh, this is one less thing off my list, one less thing I have to worry about, because it's going to kind of solve for it for myself. So it's just the ease of it, I think.
Yeah. John, what would you say the main benefit
Yeah,
is?
I'm not sure there's any one main benefit.
Yeah.
I think there are tons of benefits, and I don't think one benefit precludes another benefit. I think it's all integrated and interrelated. It comes to menus, but when we do a full cook to order menu, so that we're not cooking a single item until the resident orders it, and the only way we can do that is if we have an iPad to do the order. The only way we can do that is if we have a reservation system, so that we don't have 500 residents coming at 5:15 every night. If you're in the CCRC, you know what I'm talking about. It's all integrated. It's no one benefit, but there's also, I want to add, another main benefit is risk mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
And not just in our healthcare, but we have cloud-based food printers, so that we can print out a label and date food automatically, so that staff isn't writing chicken parm and then a date and throwing it into the cooler at this point. There are a lot of printing systems out there now and that mitigates your risk. I mean, I just think the whole thing is a benefit. I don't think there's any one main benefit, but I think it depends who you talk to. If you talk to a restaurant manager, the POS is the main benefit. If you talk to a nutrition service manager, the integration with the EHR is the main benefit. I think the main benefit is whoever you're talking to that day.
That's true. You usually get the solution to solve a problem that you might be having, but within that problem, it's like a spider web, right?
Yep.
And so it's multifactorial.
It certainly is, yeah.
I have one other thing that we haven't talked about is that I also teach serves aid and certify all of my staff. And we haven't talked about the more boring side is making sure that your coolers and freezers are at the right storage temps. There's Bluetooth capability out there to monitor your temps and already record your temps for you and alert you immediately if something's going wrong. There's log sheets for taking temps of your food. It's all like, they pretty much, I'm gonna go back to spoon feed the provider with all of that information. It's all available, it's wonderful.
Yeah, with the alerts to alert
Yes.
someone, and also if the temperature
Definitely
isn't
safety.
within the right range, it says, hey, what's your action plan here? And it won't
Corrective
continue until you
action.
do something. That's right. Excellent, yeah. So what are, I mean, we saw the word cloud, so we saw a lot of words that came out, positive and ones that, there's still some apprehension around food service technology. So what would you say are some of the biggest myths? Tess, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Yep. So I think the one I saw on there, and I don't know if it's a positive or negative. I'm assuming negative, or was the money one. I think that's a big myth. When you think about implementing all the things that we're talking about here, the return on investment, you're going to actualize that very quickly. When you think about a case study we did in looking at an operation, when you think about risk mitigation and things like that, one operation we went into, they were still printing the tray cards and tray tickets, which I know a lot of people still do, but then they needed to highlight every diet order and every allergen to make sure you have a person in an operation when you're already low staff doing that when they could be out in front. By doing that, eliminating the time because the tool will automatically highlight it for you, we found in the analysis it saved them about $2 per resident day. When you think about $2 per resident day to a software technology that's going to not only solve for that, but then think about that too. What if they miss highlighting one of the allergens? Then there's the risk of, are they getting something that they're allergic to? And that opens up so much more with tagging and things like that. So there's a downward or downstream effect when it comes to the cost management and all the other things. If you're not implementing a technology, that the return on investment, again, is just, it's actualized so quickly. So hopefully whoever put the money, and if that was in a negative way, you're starting to see the value that it can bring and the cost savings it can bring to you very quickly by implementing one little thing. I mean, taking a person out from highlighting to highlighting a report, that saves that much money.
Yeah.
There's so much more it can do.
And speaking of return, the return on customer satisfaction is right away. And staff satisfaction is right away. If you think about what staff want, of course they want money, but they also want to be respected. They don't want to do duplication in work. They want efficiency. And so those things are actualized right away. The money, there is the revenue over cost, formulas. But how do you calculate those risks, which are actualized right away?
And then to take that further, if the risk does actually occur, now you're in damage control mode.
Mm-hmm.
And that consumes so much of so many people within your operations time if you end up in damage control, which is, of course, what I mentioned where I've been for it. So I thought of that immediately.
Yeah.
Kind of a hidden benefit.
Yeah.
One you don't want to have to deal with.
Yeah. John, what myth do you want to debunk here?
I'm too busy to do this stuff. Because that's what I hear in 26 communities. I'm too busy. I don't have the time to learn this stuff. All right. And I think that's a huge myth. I think we all have our days. We all have to plan what we're doing each day. All right. And I actually took, and I was a culinary and nutrition service director for years, and I know the operations. And I would say, if you don't have the time, maybe you need to do a time study. What do write down what you're doing all day long. Talk to me about what you're doing, and let's see why you just don't have the time for that technology. I think for a lot of our people, that's just their way of being. We're scared of it more than anything else. But they don't want to tell you that they're scared of it. So they tell you, I don't have the time. And you just need to make sure that when a staff member says, I'm scared of this, or I don't have the time for this, that you're the voice of reason and reassurance. And what you make sure to understand and debunk is a little time now is going to be a big time savings later. Because right now, if you're going to do your monthly spend down and you're pulling out every invoice and you're spending all this time doing this, so the biggest thing is a little time now will be a big time savings later. And even for our service staff and our cooks who say, we don't have the time to deal with this, I will say to a cook, how many times has a server handed you a piece of paper for a hamburger, and as a cook you say, I can't even read what they want of this hamburger. Get Bobby in here. Is this rare? Is this medium? What the heck's going on? Do they want cheese? What kind of cheese? And so, I hear that it's going to take too much time, and I say it saves you time on the back end, all right? Because you don't have to worry. I still remember, I'll share one quick story. When I was a culinary director and we were doing things on paper, my biggest fear was liver with bacon and onions. It was my biggest fear. Because we would say to the servers, write L in the box, and if they wanted bacon, put a B, and if they wanted onions, put an O, if they wanted this, plus this, and I would have the chef going, I can't read these tickets. And we would have to get the server, and now that is all gone. None of that happens anymore. And there's a sense of calmness in the kitchen now, where it used to be chaos in our kitchens before POS. It is not chaos anymore. They look at the screen, they serve the food, they put it out, the server takes it out. It's not a soap opera in our kitchen at 4:30 anymore.
Has anybody experienced that?
So, when the staff says, I don't have the time to do this, I say you don't have the time not to do this. So, I think that's a big myth, that it's just going to take too much time.
Yeah, and there's time up front. There's always
Sure.
the time up front for the planning, the change management, the training, the getting used to it all. But that's realized quite quickly before the efficiencies start to happen.
One of the great things with cloud-based technology is that things such as point-click care integrate with these type of systems too. So it reduces the amount of data entry that you have to do up front to get started, because it just transfers everything right over. So
Yeah.
I feel like such a cheerleader right now, but it's like having a whole extra team working with you all through it.
So that's a good segue to the next question. Like, you're making it sound very easy. Is it as easy as it sounds?
My answer to that is right here. Everybody knows how to use one of these, right? I don't have time, but everybody has time to take a look at their phone throughout the day, don't they? And they have skills within their phone. We're just segueing right in. We're using those skills with your menu system. You're just shifting it. So be a change facilitator. This is a great example.
Yeah, Jill? Jill.
Yeah, thinking about this one and then thinking back to the myths, and I think one of the ones we didn't speak to before was, obviously as you guys are listening today, there's a lot to these systems. They're very, very robust. That does not mean on day one you have to implement everything. If you try to do that, then yes, change is going to be very, very challenging for you all, and you're not going to get any buy-in. So when you think about it, I think embracing change becomes easier when you think about the variety of audiences you're going to. You're working with your residents who might have a different opinion on things than your internal kitchen staff. You have to really know what your staff and your residents are wanting to really speak to what the change will be and really show them, oh, this does make it easier. So yes, change. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes change. But if you get those quick wins and help identify a problem that you know they're always facing, and you show them this can solve for that, then it helps embracing change a lot easier. Because then, just as John said before, the residents are speaking to their friends, your staff are speaking to each other and saying, hey man, actually this is a lot easier, why don't you just try it this way? So getting that buy-in might take a little bit, but once you get that buy-in, I think there's a ripple effect out.
John, similar.
Change is hard. It's really hard. But what I found in my experience is you have to embrace your change champions. And you have to recognize that when you go in and make change, and it doesn't matter whether it's technology or any change you make, there are going to be people who push back. And so what you need to do is recognize your change champions, your folks that embrace it. And you need to make sure that you rely on those folks to be your change champions. Because the problem with change is, it's very simple. We make a change today, and I'll tell you, it's happened a million times, and it doesn't matter what change it is. We could decide not to put tablecloths on tables anymore. Something simple as that. We have these beautiful tables. Why are we covering them? We're putting tablecloths on them? That's ridiculous. And what happens? Oh my gosh, they're changing. They're not putting, and then one person goes to an executive director, and the tablecloth's right back on the next day. So you have to be able to embrace it with change champions, and you have to be steadfast in your embracing of the technology and the change. And you have to say, listen, we are going to keep doing this. So you either or get off the pot. You know, that's basically what ends up happening. And ultimately, when you have your change champions and everyone works together, it ends up being successful ultimately. But it's hard. Change is hard.
And speaking of champions, sometimes it's not always the ones that are gung-ho about the technology that you want to be the champion. Sometimes it's the naysayer that you want to put your arm around and get them on board, and then they'll help.
They're usually the strongest
voice
leader once you
That's
get
right.
them on your.
That's right. So in terms of advice for anybody who's contemplating on expanding whatever, menu system, for lack of a better word, that was the traditional technology, was a menu system. So expanding a menu system or implementing brand new technology. John, what's the one piece of advice that you'd give them?
Study, study, study. Learn. Go out there and just don't pick the first system out there. Look, compare. Make sure that whatever a system you use fits your community. We went for a POS years ago before we adopted MealSuite. We had a different company. We said, we're sort of a hybrid type community. We have restaurants, we have healthcare. How do we want to do this? And we picked a POS company, and a year and a half into trying, we cut them loose. And maybe we should have done our homework a little better. Do your homework. Find what works for you. All right. And understand that in your studying, make sure that you get a good partner. So technology and technology companies are partnerships. And so make sure that whatever company you're working with, you work with them as a partner. That's why we've been so successful with MealSuite. They're a partner. They're a partner. We've had MealSuite for 4 years. We meet with MealSuite. I missed it yesterday. Every Monday at 2 p.m., we still meet with the MealSuite folks to talk about every system. We meet with, once a month, we meet with the CEO, Sean, of MealSuite. Every month we meet with him because we have a true partner. So do your homework. I think that's the most important thing. Don't roll out technology because it's technology. Do your homework. Find what fits your community. And maybe you don't do a POS today. Maybe you do a reservation system today. Maybe you don't do this. So find what works for you and do your homework.
That's right. Bits and pieces versus, instead of looking at the entire end to end, looking at a specific problem that you're having and trying to address that. Yeah. Tess?
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No problem. Is
John's doing really good
Yeah.
job at this, isn't he?
Yeah. Identify what challenge you're trying to solve for and
Right.
see that challenge through. I think you've heard here, and as you implement something, you'll probably see, oh, this is actually solving for a lot of my challenges. But I think once you start letting it solve for everything, you don't see one thing through. So I think by starting with the challenge, seeing it through to that solution, and then moving on to the next one, you might have, some fixes in between for another challenge you weren't even focusing your time on. But I think if you don't stay streamlined, you can get really lost in everything that food service technology can solve for.
And right with that, I would suggest putting together a list of what your priorities are. What's your wish list? What do you want to accomplish first? So really, putting some steps in place of what you want to do first, second, third within technology to at least get going. Targeting who those naysayers are and getting them on board is crucial as well. If they're part of your change agents, you're going to be able to move through some of and get to the next step faster. And then lastly, going right off of you, and we don't use US Foods, but I can tell you that as you look at the technology, make sure the conversation is open with whoever your prime vendor is as well. And are they on board? I can tell you that with our prime vendor, I've been trying to get them to come to the table to sync with MealSuite for over 10 years. And we're still waiting on the next step. So for the past 25 years, without taking a pen and pencil and figuring it out, I don't know the cost of my menu. That's a problem. That's just ridiculous in this day and age. But if your prime vendor is not communicating technology-wise with your tray ticket program, you're not going to be able to get any of the wonderful things that we've been talking about up here as far as pricing and cost control. Because if the two systems don't talk together, that's going to be a huge shutdown for you. So I would definitely, that's my last piece of advice, is making sure that everyone is a partner at the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interoperability is still, in this day and age, not open wide, either from a regulation point of view or a competition point of view.
The
So
technology
it should
is
be.
there.
And in
High
Europe,
expectations.
there are regulations that open interoperability up wide open. So, but we don't have that in North America.
So have high expectations and be persistent. We're almost there with our vendor, but I've been the one bugging them for literally over 10 years.
So I thank you for your answers. I'm now at the point of question and answer. There's a microphone, but if you don't, we can't. But to speak, you can speak loud. Yeah. Go ahead.
John, could you define what a true partner really looks like?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question. A true partner is someone who is actually part of your operation. You don't look at them any different than anyone else. So, yeah, I would say a true partner is someone who is part of your operation as well. They might not work for your company, but they're part of your operation. I consider MealSuite part of our operation. So, I mean, that's the way I look at a true partner. Is they're no different. MealSuite to me is no different than US Food, is no different than a cook. They're all truly part of our operation. And the other thing I want to say about a true partner is someone who understands your operation as well. I think, we have too many companies out there who are not willing to understand our business. So, it's a cookie cutter, here you go. So a true partner is one who's part of your operation and willing to be change agents as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sure Julie understands what MealSuite looked like 4 years ago when Addess went on board with them, And we made a lot, and you know, we made tons of demands of MealSuite over the years. And guess what? They came through for us. What it looks like today is different than it looks like 4 years ago. That's a true partner. It's part of your operation and willing to move the needle as you're moving the needle. And I think that's really important that you look at it that way, as they're no different than anyone else within your operation. They're just part of your operation.
And we're all growing together. You reminded me when I started with HCF in '98, it was a DOS system, MealSuite. DOS, remember DOS?
It's called something else then too. Yes.
You mentioned the family portal at the beginning of the presentation.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the family portal and what it shows to the resident and how the family can interact with the resident's meal choices?
Sure. Well, it depends on your site and what you're willing to share. It could be as simple as a website that we just integrate whatever menu information into that website. So when they log in, they can see what's on the menu. Get really specific what their mother ordered, that kind of thing. So it's really customizable as to what can be shown on a family portal. And it's a growing evolution as well. We're doing more and more all the time, depending on what's being asked.
So we mentioned interoperability.
Yeah.
Integration. So what other community technologies does MealSuite integrate? I'm guessing EHR and things like that, but what other just because we talked yesterday a little bit about this various systems that communities use for technology.
Yeah.
I think we laid almost 10 to 12 different ones.
Yes.
How would MealSuite be able to make that, communities overall work?
Yeah. How about if I let you, Jill and John, what are you integrating with currently at your site? I'll just say generally, it can be integrated with any electronic health or any electronic system if that system allows us to. I'll say that, but
Yeah, as long as MealSuite has open APIs, they can integrate with anyone's system. MealSuite integrates with Salesforce, Power BI, all our resident meal plans. All those things are integrated with MealSuite. And as long as the conversation is there an open API that can integrate with our system? So MealSuite integrates with, you talked about the resident portal. MealSuite integrates with K4. As long as there's an open API, you can integrate.
So John, you mentioned you have 26 CCRCs.
27.
Are you looking at the data from an enterprise level, or do you have each individual suite a CCRC?
We look at the information from an enterprise level with the ability to drill down to the community level. So, yeah, all the information comes from an enterprise level. So we control our menus from an enterprise level. Everything, right. Everything's done at an enterprise level, and we do try and gain control. I'll give you a perfect example. Our communities cannot alter recipes within MealSuite. Everything's done from an entity, we call it entity level. So certainly communities have an ability as a read as to look at recipes, but we don't allow them to alter recipes, all right? Same thing with US Food, with our managed order guide. That's all done from an entity level. We don't permit the communities to do anything other than to see what's available to them. So, but within the scope of the entity level, we give the community some freedom. So it's not like a community can't, as long as it's in our MealSuite program, they can put it on their menu. So, and if they want a recipe, we have 2 corporate chefs. They hand them a chef, we put it in. When we started with MealSuite, Axe had no recipes within the MealSuite system. As of 2 days ago, I think we're up to 9,000 Axe recipes within the MealSuite. But that's all done from an enterprise level. All the reporting is viewed at an enterprise level. The community can only see their own community, but people at my level above can see everything from an enterprise level and drill.
Did we talk about shopping lists? Because from a cost control standpoint, then from what John's saying, then your directors can then create a shopping list that tells them exactly what they're going to need to order for that next delivery, and you can control your costs, down from there. So that it's nice to have that just by the click of a mouse.
Yeah, and the really good thing that's happened, and Jill mentioned this before, MealSuite integrates with US Food. And it was a long time
And
coming.
that's my wish.
It was that way in Canada for years, but it just came to the United States not that long ago. And for a company like mine that uses 6 or 7 DCs, that kind of integration is really important when it comes to the need to menu cost.
Yeah, I think we're at time, but it will take one more.
Just a quick one. Has your internet ever gone down and what kind of apples is that?
When the internet goes down, it sucks.
We have Plan Bs.
We have to go to paper.
Yeah.
Now,
We have Plan Bs.
but we have asked MealSuite for an enhancement so that when the internet comes down, we are able to use the POS in a cached version or something like that. So when I talk about partners, that's one of our roadmap things, because yes, when the internet goes down, it really sucks.
There are contingencies that are put in place at every level that need to be put in
Yeah.
place, because usually either your state
Yes.
people want to know that you have emergency procedures in
Right,
place around this.
so when the internet goes down and we're not able to print out trade tickets, let's say for our residents. So what we do is at the beginning, we have generic menus for our different diets. So if the internet goes down, we're able to make copies of that. We always keep paper backups of all our menus and things like that. So if we have to order, but I'll be honest, when the internet goes down, it's absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful.
Couple of things to add to that is I'm in skilled care. So our tray tickets, we as a best practice, and pretty much I've turned it into a rule over the years, they are required to print at least 2 days in advance. And then if someone's diet changes or whatever, they'll print a quick ticket for that one particular resident and update their paper tickets. So then that way what happens is when electric goes out, of course, there's still, spots within the building where you can get the red, the electric that's on the generator, and we'll just go make an extra copy. Or like I said earlier, I can go in and print remotely to anywhere and then get them to them. So it's just a matter of figuring it out, whatever the situation is.
Yeah, let me just add one final thing. Having a really good, strong Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And having enough Wi-Fi ports throughout your building and having them upgraded is vital. And we get support from our IT department.
Right, thank you everyone. Thanks for joining today.